you could very well take a class in the study of Shakespeare, but you could also take a course in the study of Shakespeare globally and how, for instance, it was picked up and used in various different countries on film and in other sorts of productions, or a class on horror. I'm going to do a survey of horror genre next spring. The second dimension that often pops in English departments is composition and rhetoric. Uh, First year writing fits into that. We often teach how to write essays, how to do research projects. Also ties into and aligns with different kinds of business writing or science and technical writing. But we try to think about it a bit more broadly, to think about what are the different kinds of productions across different modes, writing, PowerPoint, podcasts, different sorts of ways to communicate to different sorts of audiences in different contexts. The third approach is creative. That is certainly the traditional creative writing, and we have a strong alliance with our colleagues in the creative writing program. But also we have strong alliances with our digital media arts program, where there's a lot of overlap between professional writing and graphic design, for instance. So that creative expression, that kind of professional and public communication and advocacy and literary and cultural studies, they blur together in our department, and we kind of believe that every student ought to have some kind of integrative engagement with that. All English majors will have some kind of connection to those three areas, and then many majors will build a concentration in those respective areas on top of it. So you might be an English major with a creative writing concentration that allows you to kind of do a few extra classes in that field. One of the things that we would kind of talk about is our department is really good at building knowledge and skills at that intersection of analysis, expression, and advocacy. The writing isn't something that happens, and reading isn't something that happens on your own in a little box, but is often very public and collaborative, and that the skills that you're building as a reader, as a communicator, in expressing yourself as an artist are tools that will be multiply adaptable to different contexts, whether you're a politician, a car salesperson, a scientist, or an artist. There are all different ways that these skills kind of adapt and translate. Last thing I'll note about our department is we're constantly trying to tie theory to practice. So many of our courses, for instance, in professional writing, aren't simply talking about or practicing abstractly, but are doing the work in collaboration with a community partner. A year ago, soccer stadium, 2 years ago, soccer stadium was built in our neighborhood, right down the street from Hamline University. So we had a public journalism class that really explored what does it mean to do economic development, how do the neighbors think about it, producing news articles that could be put on traditional news sites or in newspapers, but also were used for kind of various blog posts and audiovisual kind of responses to the experience. We also have interesting collaborations that cut across disciplines. We had a collaborative course last fall that connected DMA, the Digital Media Arts graphic design class, a professional writing course, environmental studies, and public health, and worked with two different partners, one an organization focused on food justice, and one the elementary school across the street. We went in with teams from those different disciplinary areas, teams of students who met with the client, the organization, asked them what kind of needs and challenges they had, and then our team, using the skills developed across those different fields, built communications kind of programs that the elementary school or the food justice organization could use to achieve certain kinds of goals, a better advertising campaign, a stronger and more effective democratic approach to kind of building in family and community support. So to get back to when I went to school and I thought about English, my mom laughed and said, "Why would you be an English major?" And I think one of the jokes we have about English majors is it's not very terribly practical. And one of the things we want to emphasize is those skills of reading Shakespeare or of the horror film that you love to watch are tremendously adaptable and crucial to kind of success as a citizen, community activist, and as a professional in various different fields.
Perfect, Mike. That brings us to Sonal Gerten from our business department. Welcome.
Hi, Erin. Thank you. So I'm Sonal Gerten. Hi, everyone, and happy Thursday. And I am relatively new to the marketing department here at Hamline. I'm part of the business school, which we affectionately called HSB, or Hamline School of Business. So here at HSB, we take what we call 3-sector approach to learning. So every student that comes into Hamline, we want them to have the skills to be able to be successful in the nonprofit sector, in the business sector, and in the government sector. So you're going to get skills to be successful and understand how all of these different sectors work and sort of talk to one another as well. So that's one thing I'll say about HSB. The second thing I want to emphasize is that as a business student, when you come into the program, you're taking a number of foundational courses across a lot of the business disciplines. So you're taking marketing and finance and accounting, and I almost equate it to sort of like picking your favorite ice cream flavor. You get to sort of sample all of these different disciplines before choosing your major at the end of your sophomore year. And so you have a strong foundation in everything, all these skill sets that are required for business. So once you choose your major, we have a couple of things that are unique to the School of Business. So one, we require an applied internship. And so we have faculty members that sort of help coach you along the way of your internship. And then we also cap it off with what we call a capstone project. And so this is just so fun for students where they're actually working on a real life tangible project with a client and using all their skills from strategy to marketing to finance to put together sort of a proposal for a real life client. And some clients that we've had, I actually just wrapped up a project with the Minnesota Children's Museum, which is one of the premier nonprofits here in the Twin Cities. We've had projects with 3M, a lot of the big companies here in town. And so it's just a great opportunity to get your feet a little bit more wet before going out to the real world. One thing I will say is, you know, since I'm newer to Hamline and I reflect back on my own undergraduate experience, being in big, huge lecture halls and being at the back of the room, I appreciate sort of how small the classes are. So, and this goes across all Hamline, I believe. Erin, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the undergraduate foundations courses are no more than 40 students, and the upper level are no more than 30 students, which really allows for a lot of rich dialogue and discussion. And, you know, I just wish as an undergrad that I had more of those opportunities because I was, you know, a little bit not as confident in college. And so having more practice to be able to clearly state your point of view and have this kind of discussion and be able to disagree with your classmates or colleagues in a very respectful way. I mean, it's the personal relationships that you have in these small classes are just incredible. And I learn as much from the students as the students are learning from me about marketing. So that's what I'll say about HSB. And I will say, Mike, to your point, English is so important in marketing, especially now in a virtual world where we're trying to really emphasize content. So I second that.
I'll third it. I was an English major at Hamline.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much. We are going to now introduce Professor Allison Baker from the art department, and she'll tell us a little bit about her and art.
Hi, you can tell that I'm the art prof because my house looks like it. Hi, I'm Allison Baker. The first thing I'll kind of start with, our department is really special when it comes to the arts. We're small, which again, I think is a huge added benefit. That also means that we're sort of really engaged with other people and sort of reaching across to other departments. What's nice is that lends a ton of flexibilities to the department. That's maybe getting to the weeds of things a little early. I guess the thing I really want to start with is we firmly believe in there's no such thing as a starving artist. And I know that we're going to be talking about internships and things like that maybe a little bit later on in this panel. We have a really high placement rate with our students. Our students have really fantastic jobs that when you think about arts, when you're in high school, it's a sort of maybe a narrow scope. And the longer I teach, the more I learn about these opportunities as well. We have students that are working in galleries and museums all across the Twin Cities, all across the country. And we're really, really engaged in placing our students and finding places that fit. We also have scholarships available within the studio art department for travel and things like that for our majors. Even if you're a student that is apprehensive about taking a college level art class, I know that oddly I was, and now I teach that. I was terrified. I thought that I wasn't good enough or ready for a college level class. Don't be. Our classes are mostly made up of non-major students, and then some art majors in there as well. It's a really open and sort of welcoming department. Our facilities are fantastic, which I would love to give you all a tour if you want one. Once we are able to do so. But that's really the benefit of a small school. We teach one painting class at a time and one sculpture class at a time and one printmaking class. So it becomes your studio. Unlike sort of high school where you have to clean up and there's another class coming in, it's just you. So if you're not in the class, if it's not class hours, then the studio is open for you to come in and use it. We have a really sort of open access policy that's really spectacular. I could drill down sort of into the nitty gritty of things, but I always want to alleviate students' concerns that you are absolutely good enough to be in our classes, even if you're afraid to be there. And one of my favorite things about the department as well is all of our seniors have an opportunity to exhibit at the end of their senior year in our sort of really lovely software gallery on campus. And even though this is to sort of demonstrate the level of involvement, I was able to find an exhibition. I teach sculpture. I was able to find a gallery that was showing work of other sculpture students that didn't get to have their exhibition in person because of COVID. So we're that engaged that I'm going to go schlep student sculpture across the city so that one of our students can have a show. So that's sort of what you get with us in a small department, is that we're tremendously engaged, we're really flexible, and we're all working artists that are well connected and able to really help our students out. But Mike's right, English is also important with that. You'll have to take writing classes. That's I teach the students in our professional practices class, senior seminar, how to write grant proposals and things like that, because free money is awesome. So being able to write well enough to do that. But
That's awesome. Especially what you've been able to do digitally now for that student. That's super cool. Because I know when I was a student, one of my favorite things to do was to go to the senior art gallery show, because correct me if I'm wrong, don't students also curate and get all of that put together? So they're also learning those professional skills as well.
Exactly. We have opportunities. If you have not filled out your FAFSA yet, please make sure that you click the work study box. We hire our students. Our students run the gallery. The students take care of the shops. I train students how to help maintain equipment and keep everything running. Because we're small, it relies really heavily on student labor, but that also means that our students leave with opportunities that very few people ever get. That's even if you're interested in the natural sciences and things like that. Because we don't have graduate students, our faculty that would normally at a larger institution would be hiring grad students to help in their lab. We hire undergrads. So our undergrads leave with better experience than anyone at the sort of larger schools. It's your sort of people in those labs, they'll maybe have 1 or 2 undergraduate students, where we have 10 in a smaller, it's just the wealth of access to your faculty and the experiences is something that Hamline really does a phenomenal job across the board. I think that the small classes are great, but it's those sort of research opportunities that are huge, and those opportunities are across every single department. That I think is truly what makes us special.
Perfect. So I'm actually going to invite the other 2 to come join us on video. But before I get too into stuff, I'm going to kind of start us off with a question, but please, please, please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section. So it's not just me asking questions, although I do like doing that. So at Hamline, yes, you have like majors to do. We have the Hamline plan, all of those different requirements. And when you first start in your first year seminar, so it's a class all first years have to take, that really introduces them to college and what's expected. That professor is their faculty advisor. And then once you declare a major, you get to pick who your faculty advisor is from there. And so I want to start us off because I keep saying the terms faculty advisor, but I really want to know from all of you, and we'll just start with Sonal, of what exactly is that role?
Think of your faculty advisor as sort of a coach or a partner in terms of helping to navigate your career path, both here at Hamline and once you graduate from Hamline. So to echo what Allison said, I think because we are small and many of our faculty and staff are just really well connected, we can help individual students sort of get connected to specific jobs or learn about specific fields within marketing, digital marketing or social media, or, you know, we can drill down to that level with each student, which I think is really, really nice because there isn't sort of a one size, you know, especially with marketing, there isn't a one size fits all mold because the field is growing exponentially and there's so many different opportunities within that space. So that's how I would describe a faculty advisor. It's not somebody you just check the box with twice a year to get your sort of code, but somebody who's sort of an ongoing partner in helping you navigate your career at Hamline and beyond.
Perfect. Allison, how would you define your role as a faculty advisor?
I think, well, I'll go down to the FISM portion of it, since that's sort of where everyone starts. And you end up with, you can sort of figure out who is in what department and what they're teaching. I teach a FISM that's sort of outside of the arts field. I've been doing a lot of work with zines and sort of bookmaking. I'm teaching, I think I'm calling it Sick Sad Girl, so it's actually sort of medical rhetoric and mental illness, and sort of in a zine format, doing sort of aesthetic advocacy. That is a shameless plug for my FISM. That's fine. I think that's really our role, and I'm also, because I feel very strongly about this, the best advice that I was ever given was to go in undeclared and to just take classes that you're interested in. And that's exactly what happened to me. I did my first degree in gender studies, and I ended up going back to do a degree in sculpture. So I was an undergrad forever. But that's sort of really what I even push my students to do in their first year, my FISM students, like take classes. So many people come in with majors that their parents want them to do, or things that they think it's responsible and they'll be able to get a job at the end of it. And the reality is, at a liberal arts school, we teach you how to be smart, and at Hamline, we really teach you how to be gritty. And as faculty, we're there to help you figure out what you want to do. And that the book of what do you want to be when you grow up has like 10 careers in it, and like not everybody's going to be a firefighter. So, and you don't know about the sort of this more like niche jobs that just take some time to learn and to figure out what you want. So that's my advice. But then I think our role is we're really there to help you and to catch you and to push you. And I think one of the best things about the advisors are that once you've declared, we kind of see that, and we talk to students. And I had a student that had never thought about doing, she's doing art and business actually, double major. And I was like, you should really think about nonprofit management. And she didn't think, and I was like, you have the skills. She'd been working with me. So we're there to even help identify your strengths that maybe you don't see, and push you towards things that you maybe didn't think about or didn't think were possible. A lot of the Hamline students, and I'm not from Minnesota, so I'm going to pick on y'all a little bit. You don't take yourself seriously, and you don't see how fantastic you are. So I think that's our other role, is to see sort of how great you are and to push you towards the things that we know are possible.
Nice. I love the term gritty. How about you, Mike?
I'll be speedy and just compliment what's been said. I think nudging towards the things that are opportunities for you. So there's sometimes we'll talk about the hidden curriculum. When I went to school, I didn't know certain kinds of things existed. So one of our roles is to make sure it's all visible. And since we're building a relationship with you and we really know who you are or what you care about, we can say, oh man, you should really consider this or explore in these ways. A lot of people, last thing I'll say is think about advisors as the people who tell me what courses I need to take. And I spend most of my first year working with in my FISEM. Don't worry about requirements. Put them out of your head. You can find your way and should try to find your way based on exploring. And then we're here to help you see how to stitch together your interests to courses and how to connect those courses to those longer term professional goals. So I just don't worry about requirements. I'm not there to tell you what courses you need to take. I'm there to work with you to figure out who you are and help you find a path that really makes the most sense to get where you want to go.
Perfect. So it does look like we are getting some questions in. So we're going to start right into these audience questions. So the first, I'm going to hand over to Allison. Is digital media arts considered to be part of the art department, or is it considered to be part of a different department?
I just typed in an answer as we were doing this.
Oh, you're good.
That's it. Right now, studio arts and digital media arts are separate departments. We're all under the fine arts umbrella, so like music and theater and creative writing. There's a lot of sort of synergy and collaboration between those departments. We have a lot of students that double major. It's actually really easy to double major in DMA and studio art. And yeah, there's also a ton of flexibility in both. Like studio art requires DMA classes, DMA requires studio art classes. Yeah, so different, but very sort of, we work together, we work collaboratively. I co-teach classes with Josh Gumiela, who's in digital media arts. So we've co-taught one class and we're doing it again in the fall. So a lot of smushing.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll hand this, start with Mike. Could you talk about the process of declaring a major?
So the process is super easy, just as a practical matter. I would echo what Allison said. It's no problem if you walk in with a sense, I want to do this. Most people switch or add something else. And so I wouldn't worry about not knowing. If you do know, we're not going to scold you, but it's easy to declare. There's an online form, you submit it, it comes to the chair of the department, and they help you find an advisor. Piece of cake. What we often do in the first year seminar is set up opportunities to explore what are the different fields. So whatever my topic is, and we'll plug, I'm doing science and storytelling, we will be exploring how would a different discipline come at that. So in your FISEMs, you'll be talking about a topic, and one of the goals of the class is to think about how would other disciplines come at this. And then one of the core assignments in that first semester is it used to be called mapping the major, and that's a little too narrow and definitive. Instead, it's more kind of a career and a personal exploration, where you really do a lot of work to think about what's available and possible at Hamline. And that becomes a great tool for a conversation, both with the faculty advisor, the staff member, or called the campus colleague who's in your FISEM, and the new student mentor. There's always at least one student who's assigned and is a partner in that class as well. So those three individuals can help you build on that kind of exploration to think about, you should be looking at these classes, explore over here. What I would usually say is you can kind of explore for a good 3 or 4 semesters before needing to declare. But again, a lot of people come at the decision earlier or different points, and that's fine. It's easy to switch as well.
Perfect. Okay, so this next one is, how often do students and advisors meet? I think this is a good one. We'll kind of go down the row for each of you to answer, because I know from my personal experience, it's just going to be different on student and advisor. And so let's look at your strategies. We'll start with Sonal.
Great question, Erin. I would say, so formally, the system is designed for faculty members and advisees to meet twice a year before the registration period of the next semester. Generally, in most cases, we meet much more often than that. I think that I think to echo Allison's point, it's really about encouraging students to be curious. And so trying to push students in terms of what their interest areas are and what they're good at, and what they envision doing post graduation, and sort of helping them triangulate what that course schedule could look like for them. And then also just sort of checking in periodically. I think that all of us have probably, you know, we transitioned to remote learning kind of mid-semester, and just checking in, how's it going? So really building those sort of personal connections and personal relationships as well throughout the semester. So that's how I would answer that question, yeah.
Allison?
In the first couple of years, it's sort of, again, that at least once a semester. Once my students start to be in their junior and particularly in their senior year, it's really as often as the student wants. I always prefer to do things sort of face-to-face, particularly when students are starting to talk about internships and what they want to do and what their plans are after graduation. We usually have maybe 2 or 3 meetings to figure out what students want to do for their internship or their LEAP credit. And that what I always tell my students is they'll come in for advising, and they're just like, I need to do an internship next year. And I'm like, what do you want to do? And they're just like, an internship? And I was like, okay, go. And then they get overwhelmed, and I tell my students, I'm like, go home, write me a list of the things that you want to do, not the like job that you want, but the things that you like. Do you want to work with people? What kind of environment do you want to be in? And I think working backwards like that has been really valuable. So we start to meet more when they come to me and they're just like, internship ? And then when we start to really suss out and figure out what they want, and then we're meeting more from that. And then again, when it comes to rec letters, and if you're applying for scholarships, you know, I've got students in my office frequently, and then hopefully again, you end up finding a work study job where you can maybe work with your advisor within your department. That's something I do. I think I hire almost all of my advisees to do a little bit of work every week. So we're also talking informally quite a bit.
And then Mike, how often are you meeting with your advisees?
It varied. So I will add to the 2 times a year, and there's the opportunity nudging. I'll get an email as a chair that says here's a grant that's available, or here's a new job available, and I will send it to the people I've talked to who are interested in it. So we're constantly like passing along opportunities and explorations. I do a lot of problem solving or opportunities. So particularly since you know us better as your advisor, I don't know how to do this. And I'm a English professor, I might have nothing to do with that particular problem, but I know how to help you solve it. And so we become great resources for just untangling the knots that sometimes pop up. And then the last thing, jumping ahead to another question we got queued about, is office hours. I'm just around a lot, and we all will have set times where we tell everybody that we will be available. And I will often have people just come by. I finished up lunch. Oh, I saw a really good movie, or I'm really concerned about X, Y, or Z in my classes. So knowing that we're available becomes this kind of free, this opportunity for free access and exchange. Sometimes, again, back to problem solving, but often just a chance to check in and see how one another are doing.
Perfect. Okay, so our next question. So as a first-year student, I would like to come as prepared as possible. Is there a certain type of computer or a piece of technology that you would want students to have? No? We'll go with, Allison, there you go.
Anything that works and anything that's affordable and reliable. I think I had like a $99 Walmart computer until I went to grad school, and I started but that was fine. I was just typing papers. Like, yeah, don't worry about it. You're fine. Lower stress levels. It's all good. The other thing is we have a ton of computer labs, and if you end up doing something in DMA or Studio Art and you want to go edit photos or edit video on a gigantic iMac, we've got those floating around campus everywhere. So we got you. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. Sonal?
Yeah, Erin, one thing I will add is that in the business school, a lot of our exams are done on a computer or a laptop, and the library, I believe there's students who have rented computers or iPads through our library system, and very easy to access, so that they can take the tests that are required in the Hamline School of Business kind of on the specific device. So like Allison said, don't worry about it. We're here to help you kind of navigate even technological challenge.
Cool. Mike, you have anything to add?
Just that we're a Google campus. And what that means is a lot of the work that we do, like a lot of institutions, is in the cloud. So whatever device you have is going to have access to a variety of different software that most of us are relying upon. So whatever you have, high end, low end, it will be, you'll have access to the sorts of things that you need to be successful. And anything extra that you need, you either can rent it, or you'll get clear guidelines and support about how to find that kind of right tool for a particular discipline.
Perfect. This is another question. I think you answered it a little bit, but you can go a bit more in depth for Allison in the art department. We got some art enthusiasts today.
I'm very excited.
So how,
but
did you already answer it?
no, I just saw them.
Oh, okay.
I've got the, somebody was asking about intro-level art classes.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do that's really fantastic, in the Drawing 1 class and in my Art Foundations class, we reserve 5 spots for incoming first-year students. Our intro-level classes are totally accessible to students that, again, like we start you from the ground up. We expect that students come in with no experience. I teach sculpture. It's welding and it's metal casting and it's woodworking. And I think this will be my 5th, 6th year at Hamline, something like that. I should probably know that, but I don't. A while. I think I've maybe had 10 students that have come in where they've like, yes, I've used a welder before. And I'm like, that's cool and weird. So we expect you to have no experience. That's why we're here and we want to help. And I think there's another, I can catch the other one if you're cool with that. There's another question about video editing in digital media arts. Yeah, we have a great video class. Dave Ryan, who teaches in DMA, is a fantastic, he went to film school. He's sort of doing really amazing interactive physical computing. If you are an art nerd and you want to look up Dave Ryan, like his work is really, really amazing. We're really fortunate to have someone as talented as Dave here. But yeah, he teaches a video class. And the other thing is I have, just to sort of give you another example of that, the collaborative nature, I have a bunch of studio majors that have been increasingly interested in like video and performance art. So they're making sculptures to be used in videos. So they're making sculptures either in my class or on the side, and then they're shooting videos of themselves with the work in Dave's class. So there's a ton of, and then there's the nice thing there is I can call Dave and be like, hey, I'm sending you this really talented student. But I need her to learn sort of X, Y, Z in your class that maybe other students aren't. He's just like, yep, got it. So that's the other benefit, particularly when it's a small school, the faculty get along. So we're able to do that, where, you know, I can, even like Mike, like we can talk and there's just, there's a really easy rapport. So yay, art questions. I'm excited.
Now that's a really good point of just how connected all advisors and professors are. Because I know in my experience, my advisor was Costahova, who focused on Shakespeare and vampires, and I wanted to do something on Doctor Who, and she was just like, I have absolutely no idea about that, but talk to Mike. And then all of a sudden you're popping to different people and working on the stuff that you want to do rather than filling in the blanks. So we do have a business question. Let me see if I can backtrack. What type of applications, for example, Excel, are used in business classes?
Great question. So I think a lot of it depends on the specific subject area. So for example, in marketing, many of my students are fluent in social media and TikTok videos. In all seriousness, Excel for sure, Word, obviously, and PowerPoint is something we use, or Google Slides to create presentations. If you're an analytics major, we use R and Python, so a little bit more kind of advanced programming skills, but in general, with the School of Business, I would say kind of you're fine with the Microsoft Office suite of tools.
Perfect. Okay, so how feasible is having an athlete's training schedule, performing academically, and having a 20-hour per week job? We'll start with Mike this time.
Right, pick on the non-athlete to answer. It's very doable. As you would guess, if you're an athlete, it requires a bit of discipline, but it would not be difficult to figure out. Most of the athletic practices and training are scheduled around certain kind of core times. So training will happen in the morning before many morning classes begin, and then post 3 p.m. is when a variety of different practices go into it's weight training in the morning and practice in the afternoon. So you can kind of organize your schedule to be in between those times. You can also squeeze in that 20 hours a week. And again, that's just about juggling these kind of different expectations. You wouldn't be alone having to figure it out. I'm guessing if you're an athlete, you have a lot of experience kind of mapping a schedule like that. But in addition to the academic advisor, the coaching staff, and a work supervisor, particularly if you're working on campus, becomes an opportunity where we can kind of coordinate together. And there's a lot of, I won't say leniency, but flexibility. If you have a really core class assignment on a given night and you can't make practice, our coaches are going to understand, and vice versa. If you can't make my class because there's meet, there's an opportunity for you to kind of connect with me ahead of time, and we can make sure that you don't miss anything from the class.
And then Sonal, do you have anything to add with just kind of, I guess overall, just balancing a schedule?
Sure. A few things to add what Mike said. I would say on occasion, if I have a number of athletes with a similar schedule and they need to miss class for some reason, I will hold sort of a special office hour or class time so that they can catch up on that material. So that's actually more common than not. And the other piece I'll say, for example, if you play baseball, which I believe is a spring sport, if memory serves me correctly, a lot of times our athletes will take the more challenging courses in the off season. And so kind of working with them and trying to figure out what's going to be sort of a more time intensive course for them that they can schedule in the off season so they can devote more time to that particular course or elective.
Perfect. And then Allison, anything to add on time management?
I think it's something that all students sort of learn and figure out. And then the thing to keep in mind is that we have a ton of resources on at Hamline, the Writing Center, and a bunch of student success spots where you can go and get a lot of help. And I think that even in free tutoring, things like that, all of these are free services that are provided. I think that often helps with time management. And I believe that Mike probably knows that CASA has some available workshops for dealing with time management and learning that. You know what? It takes a little bit, but you figure it out. And it's okay if you sort of fumble and maybe make some mistakes. That we're always here to kind of pick you back up. But it's a learning curve. But you know, it's totally not impossible. I worked 40 hours a week when I was an undergrad. So.
Ooh. Okay. So are there any sort of online resources for things like textbooks and essential stuff for classes? So who to pick first? We'll go with Allison, even though you just talked, but I think that's the right order.
Yes, we have actually, Mike, could you help me with out of this, the textbook rental program? All students, can you, yeah, I'm Allie.
We'll just, yeah, back to Mike.
So the textbook rental program is simple. Whatever classes you're taking as an undergraduate, you will be logged into and part of the textbook rental program, so you'll get them all. They will be often material copies, and if there are online resources, they'll be part of the process or if I offer a book that also has an online version, I usually will check the box and you'll get both of them. So textbooks just not really a challenge. There are a lot of additional online resources, for instance, using, let's say, Excel or various different platforms. Through lynda.com, we have some kind of licenses and access where you can go through the Hamline site and log on and then take a course that kind of helps you figure out how to use a particular tool.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of resources that are just available. Again, back to the cloud. We've made decisions because certain applications get used in lots of courses. So they're logged on every computer. If you borrow one from the library, it will be there. If you log into your Hamline site, it'll be part of your basic platform as you kind of move forward.
And I think the other thing that I'd like to add on that, the textbook rental, it's so that you don't get stuck paying $300 for a biology book that you're only going to use once. So that's the textbooks that's rolled into your student fees so that you're not paying out of pocket for those. It's also great for us because then when I'm teaching my FISEM, I don't feel bad getting 10 books because I know that you're not going to pay $300 for all those books. I was like, let's get them all. Like it's already paid for. Let's spend their money. So that's the benefit. And the other thing I'll say is that in studio arts, we have course fees that are rolled in. So it's never that, hey, you're taking a painting class, I need you to go spend $300 on paints. You show up to the painting class and we hand you $300 in paints. So that's, as a university, we're really conscious of that, of never trying to burden our students or make it harder to be here. So know that we're really thinking about the student from every aspect.
Perfect.
One thing to add to that, I will say in the business school, a lot of times we have online simulations or case studies that are also sort of rolled into this sort of overarching textbook fee. But a lot of the materials can be online or via the bookstore, which is nice to have that option.
I should note that I'm an online simulation, so.
That's perfect. So yeah, we are still taking some last little bit of questions. So I'm gonna let some of those more roll in. I can talk, don't worry, I'm here. So we'll let those roll in a little bit more. But for now, we'll move on to, I guess, which question? So I think, because a lot of these students are very concerned about being prepared and being ready for college, which I think we all have. So when it comes to meeting with an advisor, what kinds of preparation should students have, would you recommend for them to have before they have a meeting with you? We'll go with Sonal.
In terms of preparation, what I encourage students to think about is what truly interests them, what sparks, when they read through all the course descriptions, what sparks their curiosity. So a lot of times students kind of come with a check the box mentality, like I need to take this course and this course and this course. And you know, my advice in terms of preparing is to really look through the entire bulletin, entire breadth of courses that we offer, and think about, look at all these different courses that may spark sort of an interest or a curiosity. Like I'm listening to sort of Allison talk about sculpture, and I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I had access to a sculpture class when I was an undergrad. Like how cool, I would have loved to take a class with Allison. And so, you know, that's what really I would encourage you to do versus kind of that check the box mentality.
Perfect. Mike?
Same answer, but I'll call it a couple of different fancy terms. I'll talk about metacognition. Like you want to develop the skill, not so much to know what to take, but what sorts of things you're trying to, what skills and knowledge you're trying to build up and develop and have. So the goal is to be able to say, for instance, I have a student walks in, he wants to be a coach someday. And so one of the things we've done as he's explored is think about, well, not just I need to have this course or that course, but what sorts of skills does a coach need to have to be successful? So we just brainstormed together, and then he went off and kind of looked at courses and came back, well, I think I should take a psych course because you need to understand how people behave, maybe particularly lifespan development because you want to think about different age levels. He talked about education, and maybe that makes some obvious sense. He talked about film studies because he said, well, one of the things I do as a football player and I want to do as a coach is show film every week and be able to look at it and pay attention to it. So that kind of work that Sonal just talked about, of really digging past requirements and courses to skills, that will be great for a conversation because then you tell me I'm interested in X, I can help you find the things that will help you to kind of develop those skills. And I will usually kind of, if somebody comes in and says, here's the Hamline plan courses, I'll just take their document and crumple it up and throw it in the garbage basket and then say, okay, let's start and talk about some other things first. People are very anxious, understandably so, about requirements. I think you're walking out of high schools where no matter what your schedule, it's been fairly regimented for you. This ain't that. So the goal is really to kind of explore and don't worry about those requirements. If you just take what you like, by the end of year 2, you will have checked half or 2/3 of the boxes off without even trying. So I really want to emphasize exploration and curiosity in the ways that Allison and Sonal have already talked about.
All right. And then Allison, do you have things you want your students to prepare for before a meeting with their advisor with you?
It's
it's
exactly what Sonal and Mike said. It's come with enough that we can just help you figure out what you want, and not what you've been told that you want, but what you actually want, what you actually want to do with your life. Not because you think you should, or not because you think it's going to make you the most money. And it's what Mike said, and it's sort of what I said in the beginning. Take classes that you like and take classes that you're interested in, because you might find that you fall in love with something that you had no idea was going to be your passion, because the scope of classes offered in high school is small. It's not the same. Maybe you had no idea that environmental studies was going to be the thing that you're truly passionate about, or food justice or sociology. Just take the classes and kind of let us worry about the detail end of things. Something that I do in the honors class that I teach, I ask the students what kind of life they want. So it's sort of like we go around and it's like, I want an X life, or I want my life to be X. And then it's funny because it's very few people say, I want to be rich, I want to be successful. And then I tell them that that's their guiding principle, and that every choice that they make for the rest of their life should revolve around that. And that can change. What you want can change. But yeah, I think that's what's the most important thing to keep in mind is what you want out of life, and then sort of let us help you get there.
Okay, that's just beautiful. So we have another question from a viewer, and it's probably gonna be our last one because it's a really good question, and I feel like you'll all have a lot to say. So it's, what is your favorite thing about being a professor at Hamline? And what sets this school apart from other campuses you've been on? So who did I start with last? Where should I go now? We'll go with you, Mike? You're pointing at the person next to you. Okay, Sonal.
I was going to try the same trick and point to Allison first.
All right,
So then, okay.
I'll go. Why not? The favorite thing, always, I answer differently every time. Not that you would know sitting here for the first time visiting, but it really is part of what I really want to capture, which is there's just this tremendous diversity of experience and people that you get to connect with. And that to me is fantastic. Hamline can be something different every couple of weeks for you. That's not a bad thing. That's not like it's changing in a kind of nasty way. It's that there's so many opportunities you can keep exploring and say, this week I'm going to do that and be this. I live 5 blocks from campus. So one of the things that I think I really love is how deeply embedded in and connected to the community we are. That's both this particular neighborhood. We have a strong partnership with the elementary school across the street. We're the only lab school in Minnesota. So we have this particular relationship between our school of education and that school, where educational development community needs. Yeah, my damn dog is right here as well. I live 3 feet away from my dog. So there's these opportunities to build these relationships that you can get in the Twin Cities that I think are phenomenal. And I'm going to use that as an opportunity to kick it to somebody else right now.
I guess I can grab this. My favorite thing about Hamline has always been the students. And I've been at other institutions, and I came here because of the students. And Hamline's commitment to social justice and the intellectual freedom that we have. And that means that the faculty get to teach really interesting one-off courses every once in a while. I taught a class on anti-capitalist rhetoric and gender and class, and we made zines. So it's that you can get these really interesting classes where your faculty are excited because they get to talk to you about the things that they care the most in the world about. What's been so hard for me during COVID is that I miss my students. I miss teaching. I like being there. I'm happier and more productive when I'm at school with my students. And I love watching them succeed. Like it's the best when a student emails you, years after they've graduated, and they're just like, look what I'm doing. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, and it's just, yeah, it's the best feeling. So I think knowing that when you come to Hamline, your peers are going to be phenomenal, just like good-hearted people, that I'm shocked every day by how much our students do and how much they care, and that they're good people. I don't think I've had a student that I would just be like, you're just a turd. Like, we don't have those. Like, we have good people here, and we have good faculty. And it's just a really sort of positive place to be. So that's my favorite part.
Yeah. And to add to what Allison and Mike have said, I would say I'm finding that the students here really want to make a difference. It's not just about getting a 4-year degree. It's about how can I use my 4-year degree to make this world a better place. And I haven't found that in other schools I've attended or other places that I've been, is that sort of deep-seated passion and deep-seated just internal compass that many of our students have here. The other piece I will say, again, I'm relatively new to Hamline, but the other piece that I found here, which I love, is the opportunity to really co-create with other students and other faculty. So students last semester had mentioned to me that they were really interested in the intersection of marketing and analytics. And so what we did is pull together a project that really encompassed both components. And I had some of the analytics faculty sort of come in and talk about how to use some of the marketing data and how to view it from an analytics lens. And so the ability to sort of co-create these different classes or be able to really work with students on that, I think it's just very, very unique and very special about Hamline. So yeah, I mean, it's I love it here. I love it here. That's what I'll say.
I want to, if I can, jump on the co-creation thing, and it's what both folks have talked about. I've been in a lot of institutions. I taught at a couple others, and you pretty much do what you're supposed to do until you're a junior or senior, and then you can do something cool. At Hamline, we expect you to be doing and co-creating with us from the get-go. When I teach an introductory survey, I don't sit and tell you the things you ought to know. I say, here are the questions we ask, and we figure out what questions matter to us, and they become the things that guide and shape the class. The goal is to learn how to ask questions and how to do things with them. And back to what Sonal and Allison have talked about, take those in time to the things that matter to you professionally in the worlds that you live in. And that's not, again, something I've seen in most institutions. Most schools, that's a senior level thing. You get to be in your 4th year, you're finally allowed off the the leash. But that at Hamline, we kind of expect you to be roaming from the get-go and helping us to figure out the paths we ought to be on.
That is perfect. So that does conclude the question portion. I want to thank all three of you for joining us today from your homes and taking time out of your schedules to talk with students. I do have some reminders. So one, if you do have more questions that were left unanswered from this, please, please, please feel free to click on the link that should be added to the chat now to schedule a one-on-one with a counselor. I know these three lovely professors are very eager for any of you to contact them personally, send them an email. You can find that on the website, or they can add their own email to the chat if they'd want to right now. So those are all different options. There's always a way at Hamline to get more information if you want it. So on that note, we've got other events kind of like this one. So we have Piper academic sessions continuing. So that would be Tuesday at 4 o'clock. The 26th of May, that's going to be focused on the business department. So that's going to have faculty and that's going to have students from different concentrations within that program. Then on next Thursday at 4 o'clock is another Piper topic section. So that'll be on the benefits of living on campus, and there's going to be staff and students talking about residential life. And then another special topics one. So this one's really cool. That one's going to be on Tuesday, May 26th as well at 5:30, and that's more focused towards families and parents, and that's supporting your student at Hamline. So we're going to have the Dean of Students, we're going to have the VP of Enrollment and Financial Aid, so my big boss, Dean of, and some current students in that one too. So that's going to be really informative. And then little note for admitted students, if you are really eager to join Hamline, we'd love to have you, and in order to do that, to commit, you have to put down a deposit. We're putting that link in now as well, if that's something that you're ready and eager to do right now after this. If you do have questions about that deposit, again, feel free to do a one-on-one with your counselor. And then, yeah, so students who have confirmed your enrollment, so you're already committed, make sure you register for our summer orientation and registration sessions. And I believe that is all of the events, that is all of the reminders. And so with that, thank you for being here. Bye-bye.